In this video, we're going to talk about Spawn being powerless as he faces the Shadow Alliances. This is a full story arc comic book review of King Spawn, issues number 37 to 41, and this is King Spawn's brutal story, brought to you by RatedComics. Now before we get into the content, link in description if you wish to add this comic book and or any of our other comic books or limited print rated comic exclusives to add to your comic book collection. Support the art, support the industry. Also, timestamps will be in description if you wish to go from issue to issue. And this comic book story arc of King Spawn issues number 37 to 41 takes place right before the all hell breaks loose in the Spawn comic book story. So this is definitely interesting and fun while Spawn is powerless, going back to his roots military style as he's going taking names and kicking ass. But with all that being said, let's get into the content. Spawn continues to track down those responsible for the plot to kidnap Granny Blake and find himself along with Cygor in a nest of angels. So it's been over a year since Cygor's resurrection. At first, his motor skills and aptitude for learning were almost childlike, but the longer he was once again alive, the more he's evolved, returning closer to what he was before death, a monstrous power beast capable of mass destruction, and also capable of understanding that the true beasts roaming Earth are those called humans. And given this second chance, Cygor has vowed loyalty to the man that gave him his life back. That man is Simmons, who has been given many names since his own resurrection. Demon, Spawn, Hell Spawn, all those accurately describe him. But to those who dwell closer to the stench of death, they've also given him another name, one they mostly whisper, King of the Dead. But for now, he's merely a mere mortal trying to survive in this crazy world with no powers. So these angels are like, give her the signal, boss. And keep in mind, they cannot use any guns, because if they use guns, that building's alarm system is triggered to seal down, the police will come, and they can't tell the difference in who's good and who's evil, who to arrest, who to shoot, who to kill and who not to kill. So they have to use these little arrow guns, you know? But a simple nod is all it takes, and Spawn's augmented suit protects him from the early onslaught. Cygor isn't so lucky. His flesh is brutally pierced, and he's pissed. His enemies should know better than to instigate a creature who has already was sitting on a razor's edge, because Spawn had already mapped out their response, knowing they were going to have to take down another Tyrone security one way or another. The only question was going to be what magnitude that response would take. Because like Spawn, Cygor had grown weary of constantly having to defend himself against unwanted attacks. It was time for them to take the offense for a change, which was a breath of fresh air, and let their enemies know they're more than willing to meet them head on. Anytime, any place, any given Sunday, football season coming around, but we talk about King Spawn over here, leaving in their wake a pile of dead bodies. Yeah, baby, take it all in. So when Spawn decks his brother and tells Cygor behind him, he gets axed in the back, and Cygor's pissed. Though the heroes will be left battle scars on their own, and that is the price they must pay for having lost their supernatural powers a few months ago. But that loss of power has mostly been to Spawn's benefit, because Simmons spent most of his life fighting without powers, while these tainted angels have recently begun to find out what it means to have had their heavenly powers stripped from them. So the only way Heaven's warriors were going to outlast the vampire sectors and outlast any attacks was to cluster together and work together and just do it that way. But if they were going to be trapped on Earth without any means of returning home to heaven, then they at least would make sure there will be enough of them at most places to fend off any threats. Tyrone had built up his troops to withstand any invasion by the vampires who taken the mantle of being Earth's superior being. And Tyrone tells Spawn, you think I was that stupid that I wouldn't protect myself? This is war, and one survives by any means necessary. Spawn would agree with that sentiment, which is why he's planned for this exact situation. He tells Cygor now. Cygor grabs him by the heels, takes him down, and like I said before, this building had been rigged to detect gunfire, which is why until now firearms haven't been used. But like some human merry-go-round, Cygor begins to spin Spawn like a merry-go-round, going round and round, round and round. It will not only help clear a path for the two heroes, but it will also turn Spawn into his own rotating Gatling gun. I don't know if you guys ever shot a Gatling gun before, but that is some fun shit right there. So speaking of some fun stuff, yeah, we're gonna take a look at this right here. So this video is sponsored by coffee, so if you'd like to buy a boy a cup of coffee, link in description or donate to the super thanks. But the greatest compliment you guys can do is by liking this video and subscribing to RatedComics YouTube channel. With all that being said, let's get back into the content. So tonight, Simmons is pulling from all those skills learned during his time in the army, which means he has just 1 minute and 12 seconds left to finish what he came here to do. In 14 seconds, the walls around him will seal themselves off. In 20 seconds, an alarm will go off that will alert the police precincts in the area of some major disturbance. And in 58 seconds after that, police cars will begin to pour in from all directions, with the cops not being able to tell the good guys from the bad guys, leaving just one of the fallen angels alive so that they might be able to tell Tyrone's father what happened to his son here tonight. Spawn and Cygor need to be gone by then. That's when Spawn's deal making will begin. So the doors shut down and Tyrone's like, bruh, you've literally sealed both of our fates. The police won't give a damn whose side we're on. Spawn advances like he hasn't heard a word, or if he has, he could care less what Tyrone is saying. And Tyrone's like, but I promise you, half of them are on my family's payroll. Cygor screeches and yells out of the rest of Tyrone's monologue. He don't want to hear that. Spawn puts a period to it. Period! 47 seconds left. They have to get to the east wall. Spawn had noticed that a particular seal had taken a bit longer to engage, but he's betting that will improve their escape time by a few seconds. Though, in truth, Cygor's strength was capable of opening any of the walls, which is why Spawn brought him here in the first place. He needs that muscle, and that muscle he gets. So their exterior escape path had been mapped out in advance, just like everything else that played out tonight. He has the hostage he wanted, the son of one of the most prominent angels who was at the forefront of trying to use Granny Blake as a bargaining tool to make Spawn surrender himself. Remember that back in his issues King Spawn 33 and 34? Well, now he has the bargaining chip, one he intends to use to keep others safe from any outside interference or threats. And if they don't, he vows to kill them all. Once he convinces those enemies to back away, he'll next have to deal with the vampire lord called Blood. Because if he can't find a way to stop him, then all of what he has done tonight will have been under in vain. And that's it. That is the end of King Spawn issue number 37, where Spawn and Cygor brutally storm the Angelic Nest. So previously in King Spawn, Spawn has made his way up the ladder and has found those responsible for Granny Blake's kidnapping, and he's pissed. It's been months since they all lost their powers. Months of positioning and hiding themselves to better take on their mortal enemies. But while warriors and agents of heaven and hell have been trying to get the edge on one another, both have had to deal with the fact that the vampire sector didn't lose their powers. They actually remain the same and they can't mess with them. So this meant survival was the goal, either by staying away from the wrath of those legion of vampires, or trying to curry them, bend to their knee, do any favors you can, kiss their butts for survival. And that's how Tyrone found himself in this humiliating position. His father had tried cozying up to Blood, offering to bring Spawn to him in exchange for protection. All he had to do was flush Spawn out in the open by going after someone Spawn deeply cared about, and that was Granny Blake. And they messed up and Spawn came in with hands and smoke, and that failed. And Tyrone's like, I'm not afraid of you, demon. And Spawn's like, ditto, noted taken. Well, that's just a matter of time, alright? So do your worst. Well, even though he didn't say that, but Spawn's like, are any of you from heaven? And this guy, obviously Tyrone, is an angel, but he has no powers now. So Spawn tells Cygor and Tinker to go on, he needs a few minutes alone. And Tinker is like, yo, I can stitch you up, but you want me to go alone with that? Spawn's like, yeah, baby, just listen to me. He'll be alright. He don't bite. Not hard, at least. So Spawn goes in, takes off his mask, and he's like, you know who I am, right? Well, so does your dad. He knows me all too well, actually. You see, I was willing to face your dad in prison until one of us fell, but that wasn't good enough for him. He went after an old blind lady instead. And Tyrone's like, these chains, and Spawn's like, yeah, what, do they hurt? When she wasn't paid? Did you give a crap? Or you didn't care? You just went on and on with it, right, with my grandma. So I'm going to treat you the same way you treated my family, with cruelty and disdain. Do you hear me? I don't care what you're feeling, and I'm going to make damn sure your dad gets the message loud and clear. You got that? So there goes Tyrone's dad. He's not happy about that. And the reason why he's not happy about his son's capture is because he doesn't have anything to do with it, but Spawn doesn't know that. So the dad's like, so what do we do? Just wait and do nothing? And his goons are like, well, sir, we'll do whatever you order, but we need to know where the target is. And the dad is like, blood. He already has the upper hand on us. He finds out I can't deliver on my promise to bring him Al Simmons. I'm of no use to him. Once he decides that, he eliminates all of us. No questions asked. So I need my son or I need Simmons. So these guys ask, well, what happens if the rest of the cartel finds out? They didn't support you for going after Miss Blake, you know that, right? And he's pissed, like, you messing with my pride? Don't tell me the truth. I'm aware of that. But Blood and his army have powers, and they're not gonna help me find my son. We need to even the odds, even just a little, so find a man who deals with augmented beings, alright? Someone, and they're like, okay, well, someone's been sent to chat with them, alright? So we'll report back if we hear any news about Tyrone and these vampires. They're there, waiting, and these vampires are waiting with Tyrone's dad. Like, did you get all that? We did, but we can't protect you much longer. Blood is growing already suspicious. We need to make this right because we're all getting caught in your net. So while some attempt to hide from this war, others are planning, waiting for their moment. There's someone in the streets walking, and this vampire springs their trap, pulls back the hood, and he's surprised to find out that it's Al Simmons. The creature tries to make sense of this. Why is he here? They said he was hiding. Then there's a noise as another creature joined the fray, and Cygor, he wants that smoke, and he looks at the vampire, and vampire is like, I don't know about this, but I can't go out like, but mama didn't raise no punk, right? But we all know how that ended. So we see this guy in his diner, I guess you can say, and he's bragging about that he's a shrewd negotiator over the phone. So this guy in shades comes up to him, and this guy is like, okay, can I help you? Hang up your phone. Okay, I will. You look like a serious guy, but let's get the easy stuff out the way right now. It'll cost you $60,000 a day minimum from one of my clients. And this guy with the shades is like, you messing with me, right? Well, that's my rate. If you can't afford it, that's your problem, not mine. Is that so? You cocky little prick. And this guy's like, okay, Henry, a little help here? Henry comes up looking like an overgrown Mr. T. I'll pity the fool. Now, what do you want? He's put in a compromising position, like, so okay, so later on, that guy from the diner, if you want to call it that, meets with Tyrone's dad, like, let's make a deal. Make a deal. They drink to business, and he hears that he's a tough negotiator, and he's like, yeah, I am. Given you who I am, I have the perfect client for you. And he opens up his laptop, and we see this ultimate assassin right here. Isn't he glorious? Moves with deadly silence. Feels no remorse for his actions. I could throw him into your package for just $20,000 more a day, but he's in high demand, so I need an answer before I leave. A few hours later, the contract is signed and the agent has taken his leave. Tyrone's dad phone rings. He picks it up. He's like, are you kidding me right now? I'm busy, but if he showed up, bring him in. Well, there's Mr. Simmons right there, Al Simmons, to Tyrone's father's surprise. So he asked, leave us. I'm sure Mr. Simmons would like to speak to me alone. And Al was like, wise move. Anything happens to me, you never see your son again. So how do you want this to play out? You don't want my opinion. And I'm sure you're here to give me your conditions, so what are they? You leave my family alone, says Spawn, and I'll leave yours. That seems fair. Oh, I'm not done yet. I also want half your company. And Tyrone's dad is like, I assume that's a joke. Oh no, I stopped joking years ago. I need insurance. You know I can't do that. Guess you'll never see your son again. I'll hurt your family, says Tyrone's dad. You can, says Spawn, but I'll gut a Tyrone by then. So you want to mess with me and my family? I'll mess with you and your family. Then I'll take out your men. Then I'll come for you. Half your company, that's my price. And he walks away like a gangster, like a top. But as Spawn's walking away in Al Simmons' form, from above, someone watches his prey. The target, in this case though, moves with a sense of calm. In fact, this prey welcomes the hunt. He does a superhero landing and he busts out the swords and he's like, oh no, I'm ready for the smoke, alright? And his brother's looking like Smoke from Mortal Kombat without all the smoke literally protruding from his back. Spawn, gets into his gear like, you looking for Tyrone or me? It doesn't look like you're calling Tyrone, so Spawn flutters his cape and he's ready for that smoke before exposing his hidden arraignments. You want to fight? Let's go. Let's do this. And when I'm done with you, I'll show you what happens to the vampire I borrowed these from. Alright? So the villain maintains his silence. He ain't interested in all that. Spawn matches that energy too. Matches his silence for silence. 8 seconds has passed as each Titan sizes their opponent. Enough time to allow each of them to plan, then react. And I hate to end on a cliffhanger like this, but then again, it keeps you guys subbed to the channel and watching. But that is the end of King Spawn, issue number 38. You know I ain't stingy when it comes to spoilers, but that is literally the end. So, what you guys think of the comic book? Comment below, let me know. So previously in King Spawn, an assassin is sent after Simmons to take him down and bring him to the angelic forces. So we start off with the monologue of Spawn. They keep wondering why he'll never leave them alone. Why he needs to wipe them all out. It's because of senseless killings like this. And we see Sam and Twitch at a crime scene. And this kid is only 15 years old. He didn't stand a chance. They don't care. Spawn is talking about the vampires. They'll probably do it again tomorrow. And the sickening part is he can't stop it now. There's still too many of them out there. And the worst part is a bunch of these bastards have teamed together. Blood and his vampires, he gets it. They're alpha dogs right now. And if Spawn was in their shoe, he'll be flexing his power too. Since the rest of us, he's talking about them, angels, demons alike, ever since the events of Spawn issue 350 where Nyx took the throne and the earth has been enveloped by the dead zones, nobody has powers right now except for Blood and his vampire gang. But what Spawn doesn't get is the cowards are from heaven are throwing in with Blood. They're joining forces. They actually think he's gonna let them live once he gets what he wants for them. No wonder heaven hasn't been able to take control of earth in Spawn's eyes, because he thinks they're getting deceived by Blood. And Spawn's thinking if he were Blood right now, they should have wiped out the hell Spawn centuries ago and should have killed Spawn 10 times over right now. But they can't. And Tyrone's father is a prime example of his arrogance and stupidity of the leaders, planning to serve Spawn up to Blood by attacking those that Spawn cares about, people. And Spawn is thinking, did he really think Blood would do favors for him? Blood and his vampires are the only ones with powers. They don't need the angels' help. In fact, he freaking hates him. So why team up with Blood, meaning the angels team up with Blood, when Blood freaking hates? But they don't really have to, because Blood could just wipe him out. But Blood wants something from them. But then again, Spawn reminds them, did they forget that God treated the vampires like slaves, holding them down at every time, at every turn? And if they showed any resistance, hell would also step in and pound them into submission. He's talking about the events in issues 34 and 35. I don't know if he's talking about King Spawn or in Spawn, but it's back there. And I don't recall that in King Spawn, so it has to be in Spawn. And Spawn goes more into his monologue. So now Tyrone's dad and his ilk, his people, think Blood's just gonna forgive all that? Guess the answer is maybe yes, because they keep doing the same dumb thing and the same dumb moves over and over again. And we go back to that assassin fight from King Spawn issue number 38. And Spawn references that. Tyrone's dad had the chance to walk away to see his son again, but no, he sent some amateur after Spawn. And Spawn made a deal with Tyrone like, hey, you let me live, I'll get you back your son. But then again, if this assassin kills Spawn, Tyrone will never see his son again. And Spawn is the only one that knows where Tyrone's son is at. And if he doesn't kill him, well, he'll take his head off first. Unfortunately, Spawn lets his guard down, thinking that it was an attack dog or a superpowered somebody. But the brother was strong, but he was definitely human. And Spawn wondered why he didn't blink when he came dressed up in wings. Spawn was thinking that if he was a vampire and he saw that Spawn had wings too, knowing that Spawn ripped him off another vampire, he would flinch, thinking that Spawn had some powers. But actually it was Sigor, and that was referencing the last issue of King Spawn. But that was Spawn's mistake, thinking heaven wouldn't send a mere mortal against him. But once again, he underestimated their stupidity, in the context of the comic book at least. Now Spawn notices that, hey, this brother is good, better than many other assassins, but they all seem to forget that minus Spawn's powers, he was trained military for years, so he can still kick ass. And his enemies just don't want to accept that he's better than they are, especially now that they've all been stripped of their powers. But there are times for strategic reasons, like where you have to let them think they're more superior than you, and you let them think that they're winning, so Spawn lets the assassin get the upper hand for right now. But Spawn can play that hand when he's sure that they've been ordered not to kill him. that had to be the case with this dude, and Angel will never send a human to do what the Angel's been lusted to do, because Spawn knows that Angels want to squeeze the life out of Spawn right now. But in this case, Tyrone's dad case, he wanted to see his son, so he sent this brother as a sacrificial lamb. Now, the part of the strategy that will work and they'll never comprehend is you just can't roll over and let them win. You have to fight like you actually want to win, and Spawn lays them hands on this assassin. But you have to give it your all, and you see the blood dripping off of Spawn's fist. But then you have to give them an opening knowing it will hurt like hell. Guess what? He sold it. He sold the play. And the assassin's like, I've been told you Spawns don't like light. Let's see. That way, and the reason why Spawn gives that opening is to sell it and for the assassin to believe that their best move has succeeded. Problem is, sometimes good acting can get in the way of survival. And the assassin's like, yeah, you feel that? That's them tranquilizer dots. With all those chemicals in, you're gonna be knocked out. He calls in, his name is Matrix, he sends the location, and he awaits transport. Minutes later, Spawn gets loaded up into the truck, and they take off. And this guy small talks with the assassin like, well, did Spawn put up a big fight, or was he a big punani with it? And I guess he realizes, okay, this brother don't like talking that much. And the driver's like, yo, Ernie, man, zip it. Boss said this agent doesn't like to talk, so leave him alone. This ain't social hour. Hey, yo, bro, I was just trying to make small talk, no big deal. And when he unmasks Spawn because he wants to see what's beneath him, he's like, well, that's weird. We're in for a plot twist as well, because that ain't Spawn. And that assassin ain't the assassin, if you get my drift. That's Spawn in camouflage. So we go back a little flashback. Remember rule number 1, always let them think you win. And the assassin confirms, you're lucky they won't let me kill you. We'll await transport. But until they turn their back, Spawn goes in for the attack. And that's when the plot twists right there. That's when the tables turn and you introduce them to a pain party, and they start seeing that. Nobody wants to come to no damn pain party. I don't want to be invited to all that. Anyways, I just thought of a Diddy moment right there, but that is another moment right there. So by the time they pay attention, the advantage has shifted, all right? So Spawn's like, and then you put your foot on their throat and you choke them out. And we go back into the scene of the car, and Spawn goes in for the attack, assassinates him, goes to work, gets the killing. So while Spawn is doing all this and we see the tables have turned where Spawn is acting like the assassin now, I'm just going to take a little moment right here to say that this video is sponsored by coffee, because I do these reviews early in the morning before my kids wake up to go to school. So if you'd like to buy a boy a cup of coffee, link in description, or donate to the super things. But the greatest compliment you guys can do is by liking this video and subscribing to this channel. And also don't forget to check out RatedComics.com to check out some of our really cool limited print rated comic exclusives and some other comics to add to your comic book collection. Support the art, support the industry. But with all that being said, let's get back into the content. Now Spawn goes into his monologue, but the thing that's been eating away at him the most is he keeps going back and forth is how long can he keep this up before he makes a crucial mistake. He keeps thinking that he needs to find a way to restore his powers, but his gut tells him that if he gets them back, so will his enemies. And the question is, he knows he could protect more people with his symbiote back, but he doesn't want to know. But does he want a world where heaven and hell has their symbiote too? So as this card flips upside down, he gets out and we see Spawn in his form, ninja form, but he has to take back that symbiote. So he continues with his monologue, and Blood with his vampires won't idly stand by. They'll fight to keep their dominance, slaughtering whoever they need to quench their hunger, including 15-year-old kids. And Spawn is like, I'm not gonna let that happen, not on my watch. So they want to scare us? Fine. He takes back his costume from the assassin, leaving him in the alleyways, and he's gonna do things his way, and he's gonna scare the crap out of them too. And he walks into the alleyways, and he walks into the city, into the darkness, looking for that smoke, inhaling that smoke, ready for that smoke. And that is the end of King Spawn, issue number 39, Spawn versus the assassin, the ultimate showdown. So previously in King Spawn, still powerless, Spawn continues to bring the fight to those seeking to enslave humanity. We begin this issue with today. Spawn is battling with this mysterious foe, and this mysterious foe is pissed off AF at Spawn. You don't know how long I've been waiting for this day. You took everything from me, you POS, you piece of crap. everything. And Spawn is just laying there like, okay, this bro is putting some work on me. But before we can go there, we have to go back a little bit to see how we got there. And it's 2 months ago, and it's 2 months earlier, the night Hell's War ended. This is talking about the events of Spawn issue number 350. So this guy named Steve, David's father, is speaking at his son's wedding, talking about how proud he is of him, how he knew when he saw this girl, she was the one. Just letting you guys know, as much as I love my son, deepest sympathies if you ever take him out to a restaurant, because he's going to keep you there for a long time while he makes a decision. But however, when it comes to the most important things, he doesn't wait around with this. I remember the first time he laid eyes on that girl, he knew that she was the one. She was the one that he was going to marry. And as a parent, that's all you can really want, is for your child to be happy. And I'm a parent too. I could relate to that 100%, even though my kids are youngins. But as you can tell, as his speech gets further and further, these people go from, oh, endearing, we love to hear from you, to, wait, what the hell is going on, to, oh, heck to the no. What is that we're looking at? And this guy transforms, because after the events of Spawn issue 350, the dead zones enveloped the earth. So he was a demon disguised as an angel. Now, because the dead zones are no more, or they envelop the earth, because the events of Spawn 350, he reverts back to his original form. And people just can't stand it. So he has to run away, and people are just going in pandemonium. So decades ago, Hell sent him to Earth to gather intel. He abandoned that mission almost immediately and hid away for years, living life as a human. That life ended the night the dead zones expanded and people going crazy, and this guy tries to deck him with the chair, so he has to get up out of there. And he already lived in fear of his family discovering the truth, but the reality was worse. So he goes over here, makes a call to his wife, and she don't want to hear from him. After what she saw at that wedding, heck no. So he lost his family for good. And who could blame them? On top of that, he had no idea what was happening to his body. And he thought this problem was only unique to him. But eventually he discovered how widespread it was, because the vampires are going after heaven and the agents of hell. They're just annihilating, because now the vampires know that they got the strength because of what the dead zones did to them. They're going to work on them. Also, it wasn't going to come back anytime soon. He was not going to get his powers back. So he goes and pays a visit to Caliban. I remember Caliban from Spawn issue number 351, and when Spawn asked him the cure for vampirism. So Caliban is important here, because this demon tells him, I've got money, and Caliban's like, all right, come in. So Caliban's like, you've done well surviving this long. How'd you avoid the vampires? And the demon's like, been out of circulation for a while. Ah, so you went native. Let me guess, you're here to get your face back. Yeah, he says the demon. Well, we're not doing custom jobs at the moment, and also there's a 3-month wait list. And this guy's like, what the heck do you mean? I need it now. So do you and everyone else. So pick a number, take a line. You wait 3 months, bruh. So the demon's like, what am I supposed to do in the meantime? Keep hiding, says Caliban, and be thankful you're still breathing now. Anything else? And the demon's like, okay, well, I'm looking for someone who could wipe memories. And for how many people, says Caliban? 150. And Caliban's like, are you out of your freaking mind? Do you know what it would take to wipe up that many people? It wasn't something I planned. It was at my son's wedding. And Caliban's like, say no more. Do you think they didn't call the police and those people told other people and now they're looking for you? So whatever you're thinking, bro, it is not happening. But time to face the facts that you probably lost your family for good, and it ain't coming back because you look ugly right now. And Demon Man cannot accept that fact. So he pounds his fist on the table, and Caliban's like, yo, you better watch it, boy. Watch your manners, all right? You in my house. And Demon Man's like, okay, all right, you're right. So Caliban tells him, look, this is now the new world. Just hang tight. Eventually you'll get your new face, and it'll all be over with soon. You'll be able to start over. Meantime, if you need somewhere to stay, I could send you to someone. So the demon's like, why this happened to all of us? It's not why, says Caliban. It's who did this to us. And I imagine he told him at that point. So earlier that day, Spawn takes a visit to Sam and Twitch, and Spawn is like, what's all this about? And Twitch tells him, you ever come across a guy named Dennis Cullinan? No. Should I? Sam tells him, well, maybe a couple nights ago he was playing poker with a few of his buddies, and they all died except for Dennis Callanan. It was like a slaughterhouse when we got there. None of them went home to their wives. So now that we saw the slaughterhouse, because of what happened, we had to look into it. But Callanan survived. He's recovering now, but no one's been able to get a word out of him. But the guys leading this case, they're a piece of crap. But if anyone can force them to talk, it is them. But you know what? He's not talking. So Spawn's like, what, do you think Dennis Callahan was involved? Why are you talking to me for? What's this got to do with me? Well, that's the thing, says Twitch. He says the only person he'll talk to is you. So there you go. Where do we go from here now? 4 weeks ago, in the weeks after his reveal, we're going back to the monologue of the demon, he stayed out of sight. Knowing the authorities were searching for him, he became a ghost, hiding out. But that strain, all that shattered his wife's mind. And David, his son, tried his best to soldier that, but the fallout after that, his wife, was way too much for him to bear, so he hung himself and committed suicide. It took 3 days before anyone found his son committing suicide, and Anne was even allowed to attend the funeral. So the demon's like, man, my poor son, he deserves so much better than that. But that day, he swore revenge against those who destroyed his life, and that was Spawn. And he didn't give a crap if he died in the process. Spawn was on his list. But if he was going to get that win, if he was going to get that dub, he'd need an advantage. So he went to Caliban again and tells Caliban, look, I need something. And Caliban's like, look, man, I'll have to help, but we're all trying to keep a low profile here, all right? And Demon's like, I don't give a damn. You got to help me out. Find something else. Get me another angle. I want Spawn's ass in my refrigerator by midnight. He didn't say all that, but he's hungry for that revenge. And Caliban's like, look, man, I'll make a few calls. I might know a guy that can help. So earlier that day, Spawn goes to see Dennis Callanane in that hospital, and Spawn emerges from the shadows like, I heard you got something to say, so you better speak now. And all he goes into this mysterious allure, like he took my face down to the bone and did it with ease. And Dennis continues, the others got off easy. He just killed him, not me. He left me alive, but I have kids. He knew I had kids. And Spawn's like, man, I am not here for some freaking games. He said he'll take off their faces too. And Spawn's like, so what are you trying to say? And the guy tells him, that's why I had to get you here. I'm so sorry. So Spawn turns around and he gets stabbed in the back like, bro, the attack is for real and the ambush is for real. This brother didn't give him the chance. And the demon man right there from earlier, he is now wearing the Haunt ectoplasm suit. And Spawn, I don't know how he's going to survive this, but obviously he did some way or another. But we got to see how this unfolds. And that is the end of King Spawn issue number 40. What you guys think of this comic book? Comment below, let me know. The only thing I could think of is in the previous Scorch issue, which we did cover in this channel, when Haunt, David Kilgore, let off a little bit or the majority of his ectoplasm suit at the Vatican to rescue medieval Spawn. How did this brother get a hold of that? It wasn't from the vampires, so we got to see how this unfolds. But all I got to say is don't forget to check out RatedComics.com for some really cool limited print Rated Comics exclusives to add to your comic book collection. Support the art, support the industry. So previously in King Spawn, Spawn stumbles into a trap and is viciously attacked at the hospital. So before we go forward, we got to go back like chiropractic a little bit. So 3 days ago, Caliban gives this demon who was exposed in the last issue at his son's wedding in demon form in front of all these humans whose life is forever changed, a little bit of the Haunt symbiote from the Scorch issue number, I forgot what issue it was, like 39, 38 or something like that, when the Scorch team attacked the Vatican. We did cover that on this channel, and I will put the text on here if you want to reference that. So now he has a piece of that symbiote right there, or that ectoplasm, and Caliban tells him they're one of the few, though I don't know why that ectoplasm or that Haunt still has its powers, but we got it, it's extracted and injected into yourself, and presto, you're re-energized. So the demon's like, who's your supplier? And Caliban's like, someone who doesn't want the vampires pissed off with him, so you need to keep quiet about this. Not a word to this about anyone. So the demon agrees, and Caliban tells him, before you take this, there's one more thing. I checked your credit and you don't have enough for this and a new face, because in the last issue, King Spawn 40, he asked for a new face and a memory wipe of 150 people, which he was rejected heavily on. So the demon's like, I don't have time, I don't have need for a human face anymore. I just want this so I can end Spawn. And Caliban's like, alright, fair warning though, Spawn's been keeping a low profile recently, so it won't be easy tracking him down. And the demon's like, it won't matter, because he'll be coming to me. So back in today, the patient in the hospital that lured Spawn into the trap is like, oh man, this is crazy. And that is the correct word to use in this situation while Spawn's just being played with. Because this demon, this ectoplasm demon Haunt right now is just playing with Spawn before he decides to eat him into his own death. Tosses him around, and the patient in the hospital just screaming and screaming. So the guy shuts him up using his ectoplasm right there. And Spawn's like, yo man, this isn't Haunt. It's something far more than that. And this guy stands imposing over Spawn. Spawn. So Spawn has no choice but to just shoot him. But the guy, because of that ectoplasm suit, can just take the bullets, and it still has its powers. So the guy goes to work on Spawn, and these blows are deadly because Spawn is at a lopsided match here. He has no powers, and this guy has all the powers right now. And with those 3 blows, I'm surprised like his jaw's not snapped in half or his teeth are still intact. I mean, this guy is just probably holding back because he wants to play with this food before going for the kill. So when he lifts up Spawn, Spawn shanks him with the spikes on his fist right there. And that buys him enough time where the guy has to cover his eyes and shield his wounds for a little bit. He's like, oh no, Spawn, you're dead, man. He sees the window Spawn went at him. So Spawn's like, stupid me. I should have seen that it was a trap. What was that though? Its blood looked like a demon. And Spawn's like, I don't know, man. And it looks like Hunt, but it's not Hunt, man. But I'll worry about that later. Right now, I need a place to recover. So in the workshop of Jacob Marsh, aka the Tinker, King Spawn a few issues back, this guy repaired Spawn and worked on Spawn and healed him from his wounds right there, patched him up a bit. So his phone rings, he answers it, and Spawn's like, yo man, I got ambushed and I need you to patch me up. I'm going to try to head your way. Tell Sigor I'm coming. And the Tinker's like, he isn't here, he's still out on that mission. And I don't know what mission he's talking about, but whatever it is, he's still out on it. And Spawn's like, crap man, I won't make it to your place in time. You need to come to the address I just texted you and hurry. I don't know how long before I pass out. And the Tinker's like, well, what do I need to bring? And Spawn tells him his wounds. Open puncture wounds in my chest and back, left shoulder damage, both arms. And Tinker's like, man, you ain't gonna live, man, I'm on my way. So Spawn goes into the building hoping to seek safe haven from this brother. But that Hunt brother is coming in with the vengeance, and it's already too late. He comes in full speed, slashes his back right there, and you can tell the pain from Spawn right there, and plays with his food, throws him into those boxes, and Spawn's like, is that all you got? And Spawn has to fight back at least something over here, but you know what? It's too little, too late, and the Hunt costume is like, I'm just getting warmed up, bruh, all right? And I'll give the writers credit on this, because this is where they tie in this issue right here with exactly how issue number 40 began, where this Hunt brother tells him, you don't know how long I've been waiting for this day. Kind of sounding like Channing Tatum as Gambit. Oh, you know how long I've been waiting for this. Whoa, I'm about to make a name for myself here. You took everything from me, you piece of poop, you know? So even though that's my horrible impression of Gambit right there, but anyways, this panel ties in back exactly how the panel of King Spawn issue number 40 took place. So Spawn's like, forget you, man. I don't know who you are because you don't care about anyone or anything. And this guy decks him with the right hand and decks him with the left, and we get a flashback of his previous life when he was in human form with his wife and in human form having a baby, celebrating a birthday. Now, because of the events of Spawn issue 350 where the dead zones cover the earth and everyone's powers is no more, he was using his powers to mask himself as a human, disguising himself from a demon. Now he's exposed in front of all the people at his son's wedding. So this guy's like, I had a family, man, and you took everything from me. You took them from me. He's gonna end Spawn right then and there. You take everything from me, I'm gonna take your life. But all of a sudden, something happens, and he doesn't know what is happening, and his Hunt symbiote, or this Hunt ectoplasm, is acting up right now. So now we get to see what it's all about. So 2 weeks ago, Caliban tells his supplier, like, I don't get it. Like, why would you want me to supply the demons with this power? And his vampire tells him, call it a shift in tactics. See, most demons and angels that survived the initial purge went underground. The only thing bringing them out right now is a chance to replace their powers. So Caliban's like, so you want me to give that to him? Oh yeah, we've prepared hundreds of these, each laced with the toxin that when it kicks in, it drives the symbiote insane. Blood would appreciate your assistance with this distribution, Blood being the head of the vampire clan. And Caliban's like, I'm sure he would, but I hope he has my back when these demons get pissed off that I'm giving them toxins that's laced, you know? And this guy wants to have powers back, but now he's getting poisoned too? And this vampire's like, don't worry, by the time they figure any of this out, it'll already be too late. It'll be far too late for them to do anything about it, as this ectoplasm rips this demon in half like it's nothing, like it's a toothpick. Now, while we savor that image for a little bit, I just want to take the time to mention that this video is sponsored by coffee. So if you'd like to buy a boy a cup of coffee, link in description, or donate to the super thanks. But the greatest compliment you guys could do is by liking this video and subscribing to Rated Comics YouTube channel. And also, don't forget to check out RatedComics.com for some really cool limited print Rated Comics exclusives to add to your comic book collection. Support the art, support the industry. With all that being said, man, let's get right back into the content. So this vampire tells Caliban eventually this will turn the tide and he'll take out more of those demon mofos. So Caliban goes back into his home, and as he goes back, gets comfortable, kicks off his shoes and jacket, he gets decked from behind the head, and Spawn is already there, patched up and pissed like, last night I was attacked by a creature wearing a Hunt symbiote. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? And Caliban's like, yo man, I know a few names, but I'm not in that line of business. Spawn decks him again like, I don't believe you, man. All right. I don't know that much, but I think I know the guy who may have sent him. He's been hanging around Purgatory, which is the bar where I guess where him and Spawn met at a while back, for the past few weeks. Bad mouthing you, but not that that's unusual. I mean, you're used to that, all right? This guy seems a little bit on edge. Thought he was all bark and no bite, says Callie, but he's trying to play it out. Come on, bro, you know exactly what's going on. And Spawn's like, well, I want you to give me a message. Even though this brother bit me, I need to let everyone know that I bite back, and you're gonna be the first to let him know that message, as you get that image of the demon and his fate right there. And that is the end of King Spawn, issue number 41, where Spawn dies in a hospital. That's a little clickbait, I know. But now that you believe or you don't believe who did this, now you know who's behind it. So you did get something out of this video, so don't hate me on the comment section for that, alright? So what you guys think of this comic book, comment below, let me know. And also don't forget to check out RatedComics.com if you wish to add this comic book and or any of our other limited print Rated Comic exclusives to add to your comic book collection. With all that being said, thank you again for watching. Until next time.